Imagine this. You have worked hard, saved diligently, and built up a comfortable nest egg, believing it secures your future. But then, almost imperceptibly at first, something starts to shift. The prices at the grocery store climb a little faster each week. Your paycheck does not stretch as far, and soon, that carefully accumulated savings account feels like it is holding air, not value. This unsettling scenario, where your hard-earned savings effectively vanish, is not a dystopian fantasy. It is the stark reality of currency collapse, a phenomenon that has historically wiped out wealth and redefined nations. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on this often feared but poorly understood event, exploring precisely what it means, how such a crisis unfolds, why it happens, and what practical lessons history offers for safeguarding your financial well-being in an uncertain world. At its core, currency collapse signifies a rapid and severe depreciation in the purchasing power of a nation's money, usually culminating in hyperinflation, where prices skyrocket uncontrollably. Unlike typical inflation, which is a gradual erosion of money's value, a full-blown collapse sees that value plummet at an alarming rate, sometimes by double-digit percentages in a single day. It is not merely that things cost more. It is that the very unit of exchange becomes almost worthless, eradicating wealth denominated in that currency and causing widespread economic and social instability. Think of historical examples like Germany's Weimar Republic in the 1920s, Zimbabwe in the 2000s, or more recently, Venezuela, where people needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy basic necessities. These are not isolated anomalies, but potent reminders of a devastating economic pathway. So, how does a nation arrive at such a precarious point? The journey to currency collapse is typically a multi-stage process, often starting long before the visible signs of hyperinflation appear. It begins with an underlying economic fragility or crisis, perhaps massive government debt accumulated from wars, unsustainable social programs, or a series of devastating natural disasters that cripple production. When a government finds itself unable to finance its expenditures through taxation or borrowing from willing lenders, it often resorts to the printing press, a process known as monetary expansion. This means creating new money digitally or physically to cover its deficits. Initially, this might seem like a quick fix, injecting liquidity into the system. However, as the volume of money in circulation increases without a corresponding boost in the production of goods and services, people gradually begin to lose faith in the currency's future value. They observe prices rising and anticipate further increases, leading them to spend their money as quickly as possible before it loses more value. This accelerating spending further drives up demand and prices, creating a vicious wage-price spiral where workers demand higher wages to keep up with rising costs, prompting businesses to raise prices further to cover increased labor expenses, and the cycle continues to intensify. Eventually, domestic and foreign investors, sensing the imminent destruction of value, engage in capital flight, moving their assets out of the collapsing currency and into more stable alternatives like foreign currencies, precious metals, or real estate. At this advanced stage, the national currency becomes largely abandoned by the populace, who resort to bartering or using a more stable foreign currency for transactions, effectively demonetizing their own money even before an official redenomination or abandonment by the government. The scientific underpinning of currency collapse lies in fundamental economic principles, primarily the quantity theory of money and the dynamics of supply and demand, heavily influenced by human psychology. The quantity theory of money posits that there is a direct relationship between the amount of money in an economy and the price levels of goods and services. Simply put, if you drastically increase the supply of money without a proportional increase in the goods and services available, you will inevitably see prices rise. When a central bank or government prints vast sums of money, it dilutes the value of each existing unit. Concurrently, the collapse is fueled by a dramatic shift in the supply and demand for the currency itself. As more of the currency floods the market, increased supply, and people lose confidence in its ability to hold value, their desire to hold onto it diminishes, decreased demand. This imbalance inevitably drives its value down, often dramatically. Crucially, human psychology and expectations play an enormous, accelerating role. If people believe the currency will lose value, they adjust their behavior accordingly. They spend quickly, avoid saving in that currency, and demand higher prices or wages, effectively making their gloomy expectations a self-fulfilling prophecy. This rapid movement of money from hand to hand, known as an increase in the velocity of money, exacerbates inflation even further, transforming a challenging economic situation into a full-blown catastrophe. Understanding this process is not just an academic exercise. It offers crucial lessons for protecting your financial future. While a full currency collapse is rare in stable, developed economies, the principles of preserving wealth against significant inflation or economic instability are universally valuable. One vital lesson is the importance of diversification, not just across different stocks or bonds, but across different asset classes that are not directly tied to a single national currency. Historically, real assets like real estate, precious metals, gold, silver, and even durable, essential goods have offered a degree of protection against inflation and currency depreciation, because their value is intrinsic and not solely dependent on a government's promise. Holding stable foreign currencies or assets denominated in them, where legally permissible and practical, can also act as a hedge. Perhaps the most significant mistake people make during the early stages of a deepening financial crisis is ignoring the warning signs, dismissing persistently high inflation as transitory or placing unwavering faith solely in local currency bank accounts can prove devastating. Another common pitfall is panic-driven decision-making, whether it is selling valuable assets at fire sale prices or making impulsive purchases out of fear. Instead, an informed and measured approach, built on understanding the economic landscape, allows for more resilient planning. While we should always be wary of sensationalist predictions, being aware of the mechanisms that lead to such extreme events empowers us to make more prudent choices with our savings. In conclusion, the prospect of savings vanishing due to currency collapse is a sobering one, rooted in real historical events and governed by understandable economic principles. It is a stark reminder that the value of money is, at its heart, a matter of trust and confidence, backed by a nation's economic health and fiscal discipline. While no one can predict the future with certainty, by understanding the forces that can lead to such a profound loss of purchasing power, from unchecked monetary expansion to the erosion of public trust, we gain invaluable insights. Armed with this knowledge, we can approach our financial planning with greater awareness, considering strategies that aim to preserve wealth across various scenarios, rather than solely relying on the stability of a single currency. After all, preparedness is not about fearing the worst, but about being equipped to navigate whatever economic tides may come.